If you truly lacked discipline, you would fail at everything. But you don't fail at everything. You pay your bills when there are penalties, you show up when someone is expecting you, you meet deadlines when your reputation is involved, you respond when consequences are real. Discipline appears exactly where the cost is visible. It disappears only where no one else will know. That doesn't look like incapacity, it looks selective. And that distinction changes the entire story you tell yourself. Every time you don't do what you said you would do, the same sentence appears: I lack discipline. You didn't train because you lack discipline. You didn't study because you lack discipline. You didn't wake up early because you lack discipline. You didn't finish the project because you lack discipline. The word is convenient. It turns a repeated decision into a technical deficit. It turns a choice into a skill gap. It turns responsibility into development. Discipline sounds trainable. It sounds improvable. It sounds mechanical. You didn't choose not to act. You just haven't developed the capacity yet. That framing softens the impact. Instead of saying, I knew and didn't do it, you say, I'm still building discipline. It sounds like growth. It sounds like progress. It sounds temporary. And as long as it sounds temporary, it doesn't sting as much. The issue stops being moral and becomes technical. And technical problems feel safer than personal ones. Look at someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day, trains consistently, studies even when tired, and delivers work without excuses. The conclusion feels automatic. That person has discipline. Now look at yourself postponing tasks, negotiating deadlines internally, breaking promises you made privately. The conclusion also feels automatic. I lack discipline. The logic appears airtight. Discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. If you didn't do it, your feelings won. If your feelings won, your discipline was weak. Simple. And in daily life, that explanation seems to fit. A consistent student performs better. A consistent athlete improves more. A consistent employee builds trust. So discipline appears to be the cause, but something important is missing from that narrative. All those examples operate under visible consequences. Grades expose performance. Competitions expose preparation. Work exposes delivery. There is evaluation. There is exposure. There is cost. And when there is cost, you respond. If discipline were truly absent as a general ability, your life would be chaotic across the board. But it isn't. You don't completely ignore your job. You don't forget to pay essential bills. You don't disappear from commitments that would damage your image. You don't fail everywhere. You act where not acting would hurt. That means discipline is not missing, it is conditional. You are consistent in what you consider unacceptable not to do. Everything else becomes negotiable. And private negotiation has no witnesses. You can promise yourself something and break it quietly. You can say, I'll start tomorrow 10 times without exposure. You can abandon goals without social consequence. In that environment, the cost is minimal. And when the cost is minimal, action becomes optional. That is not a lack of ability. That is a structure of incentives. You move where the price is high. You postpone where the price is low. That isn't mystery, it's calculation. There is another word that explains this pattern more accurately: shame. Not dramatic public humiliation, not destructive guilt, simple shame. Shame at hearing yourself repeat the same goal again. Shame at announcing plans you already suspect won't last. Shame at observing your own inconsistency. When public embarrassment is possible, you act. When someone might notice your failure, you respond. When your image is at stake, you move. But when you are the only witness, friction disappears. Without friction, there is no urgency. Without urgency, there is no sustained action. That is why discipline shows up under external pressure and fades in isolation. Not because you are incapable, but because the internal boundary is undefined. The mind accepts I lack discipline easily. It resists I tolerate breaking my own word. Because discipline sounds technical, shame sounds moral, and moral language is harder to sit with. If the issue is discipline, there's an optimistic narrative available. You're improving, you're developing, you're in process. You can buy another planner, try another system, download another app, restart next Monday. But as the issue remains technical, you don't have to question what you tolerate. Nothing collapses overnight. You don't ruin your life by skipping one workout. You don't destroy your career by postponing one task. The damage is gradual. Small, broken promises, repeated, stored quietly. Every time you say, "This time will be different," and it isn't, something erodes. Your self-trust weakens. Your own word carries less weight. Your goals start sounding recycled, even to you. Externally, everything appears stable. You work, you talk, you plan. Internally, there is a record. You know how many times you restarted. You know how many times you delayed. You know where you are negotiating. And because the shame attached to that pattern is not strong enough to interrupt it, the pattern continues. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you know you can avoid doing it without visible penalty. You already have discipline for everything you consider truly non-negotiable. You don't need more discipline to handle taxes. You don't need more discipline to attend something that affects your reputation. You don't need more discipline when the consequence is immediate and external. You only lack discipline where the consequence is invisible. That is an incapacity. That is the absence of a line, a private line that says, even alone, I don't cross this. Until that line exists, you will continue calling tolerance self-development. You will keep adjusting methods, keep redesigning routines, keep waiting to become someone else. But you are not waiting to become someone else. You are waiting for the cost to increase. Maybe you don't lack discipline. Maybe you are comfortable being inconsistent where no one sees. Maybe you only move when external shame is possible. If discipline were truly missing, you would fail everywhere. But you don't fail everywhere. You fail only where you can afford to. That doesn't look like inability. That looks like tolerance. And the uncomfortable part isn't hearing it. The uncomfortable part is recognizing you already knew.